FAIRtax is coming, don't stand in the way. FAIRtax is coming across the USA. FAIRtax is coming, clean up this mess. We got to get rid of the IRS. Hey, hey! Hey, hey! On April 15th, when you're all out of...
Hello and welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
And we are
the FAIRtax Guys.
And Ron, I tell you what, I am sitting here in anxious anticipation of what you have come up with for this episode of FAIRtax Power Radio. You told me the concept, but haven't really told me much about what it's about. But I had to go out and find me some appropriate theme music, so let's see if this works here.
Yep.
Why do I keep hearing Monster Mash in the back of my head when you were telling me about this?
That's right, because the title of this episode is The Frankenstein Effect.
The Frankenstein Effect?
Before I go into it, there's a couple other little updates I want to do before we get into the Frankenstein Effect. The Olympic... well, no, I'm getting ahead of myself. Steve Hayes is the president and chairman of the board of Americans for Fair Taxation. There's probably nobody in the country more knowledgeable about the fair tax and consumption taxes and tax policy in general than he is. And every week, every Friday, the AFFT puts out a Fair Tax Friday. It's a newsletter you get in your email. If you're not getting it, go to fairtax.org and sign up for it, or go to bigsolution.org, sign up for it there, hit the connect button. Last month, he was talking about tax reform, and he wrote this article, said the dictionary definition of reform and the DC elite definition of reform. Now, we all know what a normal definition of reform is, but here's what he says about the DC elite definition of reform. Their idea of tax reform is to make a lot of noise, rearrange a few sentences, change some of the tax rates, and tell people that they have really done a great service to America. They have also
heard that before.
Yes, frequently. They have also ensured that during the process, they have been able to obtain generous contributions from lobbyists. They also ensure that in the back rooms, they can force lobbyists to continue to make donations and hire retired members of Congress and their staff at high prices, because if they don't, the loopholes may disappear. All right?
In other words, it's still a racket stacked in favor of the political elites.
It's awful. It really is. You folks might get the idea that we're not,
So
really...
they're the Frankenstein guys, right?
Yeah, today will be the Frankenstein guys.
Oh, mercy.
And there's this, before we get into the Frankenstein effect, there's this other one. This was just a week or so ago, and it is from investors.com. 2 months ago, it looked as if the IRS scandal over targeting conservative groups had reached a legal dead end, but an appeals court, in a stunning reversal, revived it this week. Will justice finally be done? We hope so. The D.C. Circuit Court, Washington, D.C. Circuit Court, overturned a June lower court decision and let the suit go forward because it had found that the IRS had not voluntarily ceased its unlawful actions. Oh, my gosh.
So we tell them to quit. They say, okay, we will. Then when nobody's looking, they keep on doing the same old stuff. Is that about it?
Exactly.
Oh, mercy.
So, folks, if you get the idea that we're not really enamored with this tax code in the IRS, well, you're onto something there.
Now, you started to mention the Olympics a minute ago. Now, people can listen to this podcast just about any time, but it's being recorded in late August 2016, a week or so after the Olympics ended. So what's your Olympic point here?
Well, we have to start with the...
Oh, okay. You got to bring... you have your music here now.
Yep.
I had mine, so you've got yours. Oh, mercy. We're having all kinds of extra stuff here today. Banks and Shane are going to get jealous.
Well, the Olympics are over. My wife and I spent a lot of time watching it. The performances by the athletes were truly stunning. Of course, the TV only shows the very best ones, but still, it's amazing. I mean, the gymnasts, Michael Phelps broke a record that was over 2,000 years old. I mean, that just doesn't happen, except for maybe every 2,000 years. So here's a report. I got this
bet
out
the
of
IRS was watching the Olympics too.
Yeah. Here it is about the one of the gymnasts. She has flipped, tumbled, and leapt her way into the hearts of millions over the course of the Olympic Games. But when Simone Biles returns home, she will be in for not just a major celebration, but also a hefty tax bill. Wait a minute. We're talking about the Olympics. We're talking about these amazing athletes who not only put on stunning performances, but spend years in getting ready for the Olympics. I know
that's true. I can tell you. I personally know an Olympic athlete, but she's in the Winter Games. She wasn't this past one. She's a speed skater.
Oh, wow.
World record holder. Very good. And she just works tirelessly at that thing. Hours and hours a day in the gym or on the ice rink that nobody sees.
How do you do that in Florida?
Oh, she trains in Utah.
Oh, okay. Explained. All right. But all that winning will cost her. On August 21st, Biles should be slapped with a tax bill close to, get this, $43,560. Yeah. Wait a minute. Okay.
Now, wait a minute. Aren't these amateur athletes, right? They don't get paid.
That's right. They do have endorsements, okay? Like
that's true.
Simone Biles, I did see a really cute commercial with her. I mean, it has to be cute. She stands 4'8". But there's more to it than that. And of course, the IRS is right there with their hand out. We have these tremendous athletes that put in all this time, devote whole sections of their lives to their craft, and the IRS is right there, not necessarily applauding, but with their hand in an upward position. Biles is not alone. Her fellow U.S. medalists will be slapped with tax bills for their victories. It's a victory tax. That's what it's called, a victory tax. American Olympics are subject to the so-called victory tax, a tax, now get this, on both the money they receive. Yes, when they receive a gold, silver, or bronze, they also get a financial reward. Gold, they get $25,000 for a gold medal, $15,000 for a silver, and $10,000 for a bronze. And, of course, that's income, and so the IRS is right there. They want their cut. American Olympics are subject to the victory tax, a tax on both the money they receive from the Olympic Committee for winning and on the value of the Olympic medal. Yes, if they win a gold, okay, it's gold. It's worth something. And the IRS is saying, okay, that there's so much gold in that you owe us, I think it's like $564. They're even taxing them on their medals, on the value of their medals.
No wonder you call them Frankensteins.
This is crazy. Yeah. So, anyways, Phelps feels the squeeze. All right, here's one on Michael Phelps. Tremendous athlete. As reported by USA Today, the United States government also wins when Olympians succeed, and it goes on to talk about the same type of thing. All right. Now, in 2012, Senator Marco Rubio proposed a bill which would have excluded medals and bonuses from taxes, but it failed. All right. This year, Senators John Thune and Chuck Schumer proposed a similar measure, and it passed the Senate in July. It now awaits a vote in the House.
Too late for these guys, though, right?
Probably. Particularly ironic is that this tax is that it directly penalizes success and victory. Well,
where have we seen that before?
Yeah, of course it penalizes success and victory. And you know, that's what Bob and I have been talking about all this time.
If you finish last, do you get a subsidy? Just thinking.
But, I mean, translate that to, businesses. If you have a successful business, you got to fork it out. If you're a very good employee, and not only do you make your salary or wage, but you get a bonus, you got to fork it over to the IRS. The income tax penalizes success and hard work over and over again. But what gets me is you've got John Thune and Chuck Schumer are proposing this measure. They want to pass a law to make it exempt. Well, wait a minute. Who gave us the income tax? Who's responsible for this monstrosity?
All the Frankensteins up there, you call them Congress critters. I guess we're going to have to change their names now, right?
Yeah, because they make a change almost every day that Congress is in session. The tax code is up around 75,000 pages when you consider everything, including the decisions by the tax courts. And then every once in a while, a senator or a congressman comes in and says, oh, we need to change this. Well, Chuck Schumer has been in the Senate for a long time. I'm quite sure that he's voted in favor of a lot of these changes. Changes that, that affect us on our daily lives. And
that
now
affect the lobbyists that come to see him.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he gets some nice visits. And the same with all the other senators and representatives, all right? They pass these changes to the tax code, and then when something shows up that's very unpopular, then they want to be the knight in shining armor that comes in and proposes a change to the tax code. They're the ones that created the monster. That's why we're calling it the Frankenstein Effect. They created the monster. Now they're trying to do something to nibble away at a little bit. All they're going to do, I hope they do. I don't think our Olympians should be fined, which is really what it is, for their success. But frankly, I don't think any of us should be fined for our success. What do you think, Bob?
Oh, mercy. I agree with you on that, too. But it is insane the way that these folks... They create the problem, and then they cast themselves as the one who's going to solve the problem.
Yeah.
You can never solve a problem by rehiring the same people that created it, for crying out loud.
Yeah, it's just nuts. And even there's even a report here. I'm not going to get into it, but Matt Kuchar won a bronze in the golf event. He won that. Let's see, bronze gives him $10,000. However, the bronze medal, since it's not a precious metal, the IRS isn't going after anything on the medal itself, just the $10,000. And since he's a pretty successful golfer and his income is pretty substantial, he's going to have to fork over about 40%. There's another thing, Bob. The top marginal tax rate for successful people is 39.6. Why don't they just call it 40?
Close enough.
They don't. I guess 40 looks bad. I guess it's the optics of it, but it's 39.6%. Come on, give me a break.
It's like that 0.9 on the price of a gallon of gasoline. Right?
Yeah, that makes a whole big difference. Yeah.
Oh, just that's optics. It makes it look better. 199.9 is less than $2 a gallon or whatever.
So it's a little crazy, and that's why I'm calling it the Frankenstein Effect. Our friends, as we've called them before, the Congress critters, they've created this tax code. They've made it, just unbelievably complicated and impossible to comply with 100%. And then they want credit for going in and saving the day and saying that the Olympians, shouldn't have to pay taxes on their winnings, which I agree with. It's just that I agree with that for all of us.
Mm-hmm. If they really wanted to fix the problem, there's a better way to do it.
There sure is.
And it's not the better way that came out of the House Ways and Means Committee either.
No, it's the best way. And that, of course, is the fair tax. As we've said many times before, if you've listened to us before, you know the fair tax is not an income tax. It does not tax you on your hard work and your productivity. It taxes you on what you choose to spend. And you have a lot of latitude, because if you're a person of means and you want to buy a Mercedes instead of a Chevy, fine, that's your decision, all right? And better yet, if you're struggling along, just trying to raise your family, a young family just trying to get by, you can buy a used car and not pay any fair tax on it at all. So there's all kinds of latitude, and it puts you in control. You are in control of how much federal tax you pay by your spending habits. And it really does protect the poor, because then there's that prebate thing in there too that protects the people who are just getting by.
Frankenstein doesn't like that. It likes to be in control of how much of your money they get to pick away from you before you even see it.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. I think withholding, I think, is the worst thing that Congress has ever done by taking money from people before they even get it. They don't even think it's theirs. Ask somebody how much money they make, and they'll say, well, the ones that won't tell you none of your business, they'll tell you, well, I bring home so much. No, that's not what I asked you. How much do you make? What's your gross? They don't know.
Yeah, sometimes they don't have a clue. They just know what they
The government just takes their money, and it's not even, they don't even think of it as theirs anymore.
They have written it off. They have written off what they send to the government. Well, we're here to tell them there is a choice. There is a better choice. There's a way that you can better support your family, and yet the government will still get plenty of cash to operate. The fair tax is revenue neutral, which means it's designed to give the government enough money to run its daily and yearly operations. No problem there. We're not trying to starve the government. That is a different issue, and that's for folks like the Tea Party and so forth. That's a spending issue. The fair tax is a revenue issue. Now, we have in the past talked about civil asset forfeiture. Civil asset forfeiture.
Well, that's when Frankenstein really takes a big chunk out of your hide.
As I was doing the prep for this, I was getting more and more angry as I was going over, doing research and finding these articles, which is very easy to find. You just type in civil asset forfeiture. There's all kinds of stuff that pops up. It's amazing. If I could speak. Civil asset forfeiture refers to the legal procedure by which the government is able to seize and ultimately forfeit the property of people suspected of wrongdoing, even when those people are never convicted of or even charged with a crime.
Now, wait a minute. That means the government can just suspect you of doing something wrong and can come in and snatch your bank account with no due process?
Yep.
You're kidding.
It's exactly right. And it has happened to hundreds of Americans. Some of the stuff I was reading through, it lists the amount that the government has seized. And another insidious part of this is that it has trickled down, you might say, trickled down from the IRS to state and local police agencies. They're doing the same thing. In some cases, this is how they fund their operations.
And let me guess, when that happens to you, the burden of proof to prove that you've done nothing wrong falls on you. They don't have to prove you've done something wrong. You have to prove that you haven't. Is that accurate?
And it's incredibly expensive, too, to try to get your money back. Civil asset forfeiture flows from an archaic English legal term, which held that, now this is really weird, which held that the inanimate object could be found guilty of immoral acts and thus be forfeited to the crown.
Well, one more time on that?
Yeah.
Run that by me one more time.
Okay. Civil asset forfeiture flows from the archaic the English legal concept, which held that the inanimate object could be found guilty of immoral acts.
An inanimate object guilty of immoral acts.
Not the person, but the object that is being confiscated, such as their money. The money is guilty of a crime. No. Folks, if you're trying to figure this out, you're going to have to go to other people because we can't figure it out either. The doctrine endured through the centuries and found its way into the American law prior to the Revolution. So it's been around for a long time, but it has become, with the IRS, it has become very popular. Forfeiture was originally presented as a way to cripple large-scale criminal enterprises by diverting their resources. Okay, I have no problem with that. You've got drug dealers or whatever's going on, criminal operations, and you want to shut them down, good. Go seize their assets, all right? Just make sure it's a criminal organization. All right, don't pick on innocent civilians.
Make sure they've at least been charged with something, if not convicted already, before you do that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We have something here called the Bill of Rights that the IRS hasn't read yet.
No, they conveniently seem to have forgotten about the Bill of Rights. Okay, this is from National Review. One Philadelphia couple had their entire house seized when their son was arrested for selling $40 worth of heroin out of it without their knowledge. Obviously, the parents did not know about it. He sold $40 worth of heroin. The police seized the entire house. An aspiring musician, and I remember reading about this, a young man, I think 22 years old, was heading out to Los Angeles because he wanted to make his way into the music industry. And for some reason, he carried a bunch of cash with him instead of sending it as a banknote. I don't understand that, but it is his choice. So somewhere along the line, he was stopped. They saw the $16,000, and they seized it because they just assumed it was for drug money. And now, how does a 22-year-old and give credit to a 22-year-old who saved up $16,000? I know when I was 22, I didn't have anything worth $16,000. And it's gone. It's gone. And what he has to go through to get it back is just amazing. So here's give you some more examples. Civil asset forfeiture is a major source of non-appropriated revenue for governments at all levels. That's right, at all levels. As I mentioned, the IRS has kind of gone into cahoots with law enforcement agencies at all levels to engage in this civil asset forfeiture. 2015 report from the Institute for Justice, annual deposits to the Justice Department's Asset Forfeiture Fund reached $4.5 billion in 2014, with only 13% of that coming from criminal convictions. 13%. So the rest of it comes from us? That's crazy.
That has got to stop. We have got to we can't reform the agency that's doing that. There's only one way to stop that, and that is to chuck the IRS onto the scrap heap of history, make it something that we never, ever have to deal with again. There's only one tax reform proposal that does that. Can you guess what it is?
Yeah. And as Thomas Jefferson said in the last episode, the income tax and the IRS was a gargantuan mistake. Okay.
Was it ever?
We've talked about this one before. For almost 40 years, Carol Hinders has dished out Mexican specialties at her modest cash-only restaurant. This is in Arnold's Park, Iowa. For just as long, she deposited the earnings in a small bank branch a block away. She's been doing this for almost 40 years. Well, I'm going to summarize this. The IRS came in until last year when two tax agents knocked on her door and informed her that they had seized her checking account almost $33,000. Now, maybe to some people that doesn't sound, but when you're running a small business and you have to buy supplies, to make the food and keep everything running, $33,000 is a lot of money. How could this happen, Mrs. Hinders said in a recent interview. Who takes your money before they prove you've done anything wrong with it? Well, the federal government does. Using a law designed to catch drug traffickers, oh boy, I can't speak today, drug traffickers, racketeers, and terrorists by tracking their cash. Well, the IRS is going a little overboard, and they're really attacking innocent civilians.
Oh, mercy
so
sakes.
It's they mentioned that it swept up dairy farmers in Maryland, an Army sergeant who was saving for his children's college education. All these people have been victimized by the civil asset forfeiture. So
yeah, they're after you.
Yeah.
Oh, mercy.
So coming to the rescue, we have, and I got this off of congress.gov, H.R. 5523. I'll give you the whole title and then I'll explain it. Restraining excessive seizure of property through the exploitation of civil asset forfeiture tools. Well, actually, that one kind of spells itself out. Now, this one has passed the House, passed the Senate, and it actually became law. Okay? So this one, they're trying to rein in the monster that they created, which is the IRS. All right? There's been a lot of negative press about this, and I haven't heard much positive about the IRS in like 3 or 4 years anyways. So this is just one more thing piled upon it. So HR 5523, they're trying to rein in the civil asset forfeiture as used by the IRS. So they created the monster. They allowed the IRS to ignore the Bill of Rights, ignore due process, ignore unreasonable search and seizure, and so forth. And now they're coming in with this bill, and hopefully. So, Bob, do you think this is going to fix everything with the IRS?
No. There's only one way to fix the IRS, and that's to get rid of it.
Yeah. And the last one I have. Let's talk about the current presidential election. Both Mrs. Clinton and Mr. Trump have talked about an exit tax. Well, Mr. Trump didn't call it an exit tax. Mrs. Clinton does. But they're concerned about companies that go offshore. Well, why do the companies go offshore?
To escape our tax system.
Yeah, taxes and regulations.
So let's tax them some more. Sounds like.
And so they've got these multinational corporations. They have operations overseas. They make and sell stuff overseas. Their office may be based in the U.S., but when a company makes money overseas, even individuals, there's individuals giving up their U.S. citizenship. So whether it's a company or an individual, they live overseas, they work overseas. The IRS says, you're an American citizen, you owe it to us. And so whenever you try to enforce nonsense like that, you just force more people away. So even the presidential campaigns are getting into this with their exit tax, or I'm going to make it impossible for a company to move overseas. There's a reason they're doing that. You need to get to the source of the problem.
If you want to stop them from going overseas, incentivize them to stay.
Yeah.
Make America the most business-friendly place to be, and they'll come.
Bob,
Real easy.
The only solution is that you and I have to run for president.
Oh, well, okay.
I'm
not so sure I want to, as nasty as these campaigns seem to get. But
yeah, it could get interesting. Anyways, folks, if you have any questions, please contact us. You can email us at thefairtaxguys@gmail.com, thefairtaxguys@gmail.com. And we want to encourage you to go to bigsolution.org. That's the website in which you can get involved and help us do this. Every week we come up with a new episode to try to explain a new aspect of why the current system is so bad and why the fair tax is so good. And please get involved. We need to make a lot of noise with this. Some of the information I got today for today's episode was off of PopVox, POPVOX.com. Great website. You go in there and you do a search for any kind of legislation that's pending right now, and it'll give it to you. And you can weigh in on whether you are in favor or against it, so forth.
Well, I like the fair tax. I'll go tell them so.
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, if you're listening to this, you're listening to it either on Spreaker.com or you're listening to it on iTunes. We are also on YouTube and SoundCloud. But our main platforms right now are Spreaker, and Spreaker sends it over to iTunes. So those of you that are using iTunes, you can find us there too. And it's all free. It's absolutely free. Okay. We are on the Facebook, Facebook.com, Facebook.com/the FAIRtax Guys. And don't forget the webinar, the fourth Thursday of every month. You must register at fairtax.org/webinar. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. It was...
Well, the music was good.
Yeah, the music was good. And I tell you, it was really heart-rendering sometimes putting this thing together because I would get madder and madder as I read this stuff.
I can see why. That's insane, some of the stuff that's going on in our tax code. And we, the people, just don't seem to care about it. We have got to fix this, folks. You have got to join AFFT, Americans for Fair Taxation. Let your voice be heard, and we'll get this done. It's just going to take some doing, okay?
That's right. But the people are going to have to do it, so please rise up and get it done.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your Frankenstein stuff today. That was worth waiting for, okay? And that's going to wrap up this edition of Fair Tax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
We are the Fair Tax Guys, reminding you that the fair tax is America's big solution, and once you understand it,
you'll demand it.
Fair tax is coming.